How's everyone doing today? Welcome back to On The Ball. Welcome back to another episode of Review the Prem, where me and my brother go head-to-head in predicting Premier League outcomes. The scores on the doors at the moment are 377 to Sim, 368 to me. 9 points is the gap, and the way the scoring works is 5 points for a completely correct scoreline, 1 point for a correct result, and the star man, once you pick that man, you can't pick them again for the rest of the season. 5 points for a goal, 2 points for an assist. Let's get into the weekend's action. Very much focused on the relegation battle, starting off with Luton against Brentford, which finished 5-1 to Brentford at Kenilworth Road. And that must have been a massive kick in the teeth to Luton, because we know at home is when they usually pull out their big performances, and this was anything but. Sim went for 2-2, I went for 1-1, so 0 points on the board for this one. And Ivan Toney-less Brentford got the job done in emphatic style.
It was an annihilation, and I have to say, watching the game, Luton looked tired. It looked like they're at the end of a long season when they've given everything, and they've given everything to put themselves within a fighting chance of staying up, and they've done so well just to put themselves in this position, considering where they were at the beginning of the season. But I have to say, watching this game, you know, a Brentford side, yes, who've been playing well recently, and they're very difficult to play against, but it was a demolition job from Brentford. Every time Brentford went forward, they looked like they were going to score. Luton seemed to run out of ideas very, very quickly. They looked vulnerable from every single facet, from set pieces, open play. When Brentford were dominating the ball as well, they looked like they can break them down at any moment. Wissa and Mbeumo causing absolute havoc among the Luton backline. And Luton just looked very, very leggy. And I don't know whether it's the whole season finally catching up with them. Maybe it's like they've put everything into this season to get themselves in this position, and maybe they're running on empty at the moment. That's what it seemed to me, because they were making so many mistakes. There was like playing out the back and just passing it straight to Brentford, and they would be in on goal straight away. It was really, really sloppy from Luton. But I'm not sitting here saying they didn't like give their all or anything like that. They didn't try. Of course they did. But I just feel like I don't know if they have the energy left to really go the extra mile and give themselves a fighting chance of safety here after that performance.
And this is what I was kind of saying to you last week on Review the Prem. Like, yeah, Everton aren't playing well at the moment, but Luton as well. Even if they perform well, they can't seem to be getting the results. This is obviously they didn't perform well, and they got absolutely battered by Brentford. And Brentford, you know, we've been speaking about them for a few weeks, saying they've been playing well, not getting results on the board. 5 games now without defeat, 2 wins on the bounce for Brentford, so congratulations to them. But Luton, I mean, I fear for Luton now. 4 losses in their last 5 games, heavy defeats as well, back-to-back 5-1 defeats. Yeah, last week was against Man City, but I don't know, I just can't see a situation where Luton stay up.
Not on this evidence. I think on this evidence, Burnley might have more of a chance, but we'll talk about Burnley in a bit. But yeah, the fact they were just so comprehensively beaten this badly by a Brentford team who haven't exactly been scoring loads of goals, despite the fact that they've been playing quite well, has got to be a massive concern. But what was interesting right at the end of the game, even though it was a heavy defeat, the crowd gave the players like a bit of an ovation. Rob Edwards came over to the fans and they were clapping him. It didn't turn toxic. So as long as they keep that kind of energy, maybe they can pull out 1 or 2 results between now and the end of the season. Maybe that's all they're going to need. But it looks like they're just, I think, at this point in the season, maybe it's run its course. We have to wait and see. But when you're losing 5-1 at home to Brentford in a must-win game, I mean, that is got to be massive, massive concern for the last 4 games. Yeah, it is a massive concern, and I do think that they're going to go down this season. But with 4 games left to play, they're only 1 point off safety, so there is all to play for still. Of course.
Moving on to Sheffield United against Burnley. It finished 4-1 to Burnley at Bramall Lane. Both us going for Burnley victories, but Sim went for 1-0. I went for 2-1, so we both get a point on the board for this one. And again, pretty much another demolition job this weekend. Sheffield United are pretty much, I think you can probably assume that they're down by now. Burnley giving themselves a bit of a fighting chance.
Well, it was interesting this game because I was watching it again, and I thought Sheffield United were the better team for large parts of this game. And even in the first half, I thought Sheffield United were the better team. They were the ones making the running. And then out of nothing, Burnley get a shot deflection, which I thought the Sheffield United keeper, I mean, it seems to go past him in slow motion, so I think he'll be very disappointed with the fact that he allowed that goal from Bryn Larsen to get past him. then all of a sudden they hit them very quickly again with another goal, which was a bit of a toe poke, and the keeper again gets a big foot to it, and it ends up in the back of the net. So although Sheffield United were the better team, I felt in that first half, they found themselves 2-0 down, and in the second half they get themselves back in it with a great goal from Hamer, and you think they're back in the game. But it was really good counter-attacking football from Burnley, and Foster making them pay late on, and I think Goodmanson as well with a really good finish. So I think Burnley will be delighted with the fact that they were very clinical in their attack. Sheffield United will be disappointed that they had a lot of chances, but their lack of clinical edge really cost them. But Burnley really given themselves a fighting chance. It was a really big win. They had to win this game. It was do or die, really. So they'll be happy they won it really convincingly, because they've had, a bit similar to Brentford, they've had a lot of good performances recently, but haven't been getting the results because of really bad, costly mistakes. And maybe that win and the winning so convincingly maybe will give them a bit of confidence going to those last 4 games, so they can get a few wins here.
Yeah, absolutely. And with 4 games left to play, they are 3 points off Forest in 17th. So it's going to be a really tight end to the finish. And also, when you've got to look at it, the goal difference, they are considerable. I think 4 goals behind Luton in terms of goal difference. But it was a massive swing this weekend. And Forest, yeah, I guess the Forest goal difference is probably a bit insurmountable, with them on -18 and Burnley on -32. So
Forest have to play Burnley, you said, didn't you?
Forest do have to play Burnley. Second last game of the season.
At Turf Moor or City Ground?
I think at City. Let me just check. No, it's at Burnley.
So if there's...
It's actually last game of the season.
Wow. So that could be a massive game.
Yeah. Wow. Last game of the season. Can you imagine?
If they can keep in touching distance, what a massive game that could be.
What the 2 teams are showing, who do you think wins that game? I think Burnley got a good chance.
Yeah, I don't know if I can see them winning, though. I think they can see them getting a point. I don't know if they can actually get the win, though.
What I wanted to talk about as well, a lot of talk about the Burnley goalkeeper Muric over the last couple of weeks with the bigger mistakes that he's making. He came up trumps in this game, though, didn't he? 10 saves during the game, man of the match performance. So did he right those wrongs?
I wouldn't say right those wrongs, but I think he justified Kompany keeping him into the team because he had a great game. So fair play to Kompany. Most managers would have dropped him at that point.
Yeah. Let's move on away from the relegation battle up into the title race at Molineux. Wolves 0, Arsenal 2. Sim went for 2-1. I went for 2-2. So Sim gains a point for this game. And I don't know. I thought it was a bit of a lackluster performance from Arsenal, to be fair. And I thought they kind of reap the benefits of a very much depleted Wolves side, and the kind of Wolves were kind of really beating the Arsenal press and helping and gaining the ball in good areas. They just couldn't hurt Arsenal essentially, but Arsenal got the job done.
I felt like in the first half it was a very difficult game for Arsenal, and I think they were lucky maybe not to go in 1-0 down with that chance from Gomez that which was a really good save from Raya, hit the bar, and they were creating a few good openings. I thought in that first half Wolves gave a lot of energy to try and force Arsenal into a few mistakes, try and force some situations, and I thought they defended really well. But I think Arsenal scored at the perfect time, right before half-time.
Twice.
Yeah, just before the half-time whistle. Trossard obviously gets that goal. I think that makes all the difference because I think in the second half was a bit of a different story. I did think Arsenal controlled it a lot better, and I think they restricted Wolves a lot better. Wolves never got close to the goal like they did in the first half, and it was actually quite an accomplished performance. I think it gave that goal just before the break really gave Arsenal a bit of confidence to control the game. I think they were still feeling the effects of the last 2 games in that first half, and if that João Gomez shot goes in, I think we're talking about a different story here. Wolves have something to hang on to, and Arsenal all of a sudden their mentality shifts, but they didn't go in. Trossard then scores, and I think they deserved it in the second half. I thought they played quite well, and obviously they got that second goal right at the end through Martin Odegaard, but I thought they defended exceptionally. It's just what they needed, 3 points after the week they've had. Obviously they got a more difficult game on midweek against Chelsea in a bid to keep pace, well actually stay top of the league because they've gone top now, but I think they won't be delighted with how they came out, but I think they'll believe, Arsenal will believe that second half performance was more of the real them, and maybe that's what we'll see for the last few games.
First of all, João Gomez, I thought a brilliant display from him in the middle of the park. I thought he was everywhere. I really like him as a player, really like him. But in terms of how the game went, I got the sense that if Wolves weren't so depleted and they have more talent up front, that could really hurt Arsenal. It could have been a very different game. Hwang wasn't fit. He went off just after half time. Before the game, they said he can only play 45 minutes. Cunha wasn't there. They had other players out as well.
Nuri, who's usually a threat for.
And as soon as he came on, you could see he started to be a threat straight away. So I did feel like Arsenal reaped the benefits of Wolves being really depleted in this game, and it could have been a different story if it wasn't that case. But Arsenal got the job done. Professional performance at the end of the day, and they went top of the league. Let's move on to another game down at the bottom on Sunday, which was Everton 2, Nottingham Forest 0. Sim went for 1-1, as did I. So no points on the board here. And this game, you could really sense the tension. Really, you could. Both teams strapping for their lives. This game is always going to be the tale of the non-given penalties. Ashley Young gave away 3 pretty much stonewall penalties. There was another one in there as well. And Nottingham Forest had to give a statement to the FA after the game on their website, through social media as well. And as much as I don't think they probably should be putting statements out in the open like that, I do feel like it was mad how none of those penalties were given. Ashley Young, what is he doing for 3 of those moments? I thought all 3 of them were stonewallers.
I have a slightly different opinion. I think one of them was a stonewall penalty. I think the other 2, I don't think that I think there are good arguments both sides, in my opinion, for the other 2, whether they were stonewall. I think the one which I do think was stonewall was the one on Hudson-Odoi, which I think
that was the first one.
That's the first one. He gets completely the wrong side, doesn't get any of the ball. He goes completely through the back. I don't know why the referee doesn't give it. Apparently as well, if you watch the replay, you can see the referee say, "Oh, Young got the ball."
Yeah,
and so, if he thinks Young got the ball, VAR should 100% be going back there and saying, no, he didn't, you've seen that wrong. So I don't understand that decision. I think the other 2, the handball, his arm is slightly out. It's very close. I don't like those being given handballs. I guess in this modern day and age, you do see them given a lot. So I understand Nottingham Forest being aggrieved. They probably have a right to feel aggrieved. I didn't think it was a blatant handball. I did think that his arm was out. And the other one, I thought the contact wasn't that much, to be honest, on the other one. There was a bit of contact, but I didn't think it was like a blatant one. I think he could have given it, and I don't think he can have any complaint to Young. But I also think that I don't think Forest can be up in arms in that specific situation, in my opinion.
But all 3 of them put together, though.
All 3 of them put together, you obviously... you're going to be very, very disappointed, very angry, and that's what they were. In terms of how the game went, there was a game with very few chances, and both Everton's goals came out of nothing, didn't he? Shot from Gay from 25 yards, hit which
Daisy hit from McNeil though,
and McNeil, 2 great goals. But it was like that's what was going to take in this kind of game to break the deadlock, because both teams were very scared to go forward. But in terms of that. So obviously, massive win for Everton. That might be enough to maybe get them out of this relegation battle here. They're 5 points clear now with a game in hand and 4 games to go. So, considering the other team's lack of consistency, Everton might feel maybe one more win and they should be all right. But in terms of that statement from Forest, I think it's a bit embarrassing to accuse the VAR of corruption and say he's a Luton fan, so he was never going to give Everton penalties. And I think is ridiculous, and I think they should be punished for it. And considering they appointed Mark Clattenburg as their consultant, I don't know whether he advised them to say something like that or what's going on there. But I do find it interesting that Clattenburg as well has written an article saying that Forest have a right to be aggrieved, and some of the decisions were a joke. But he wrote an article for the Daily Mail stating these things, but he doesn't state that he's a Forest consultant in that article. So I find that quite interesting from that perspective, that they've appointed a former Premier League referee and he's kind of egging them on to go further with it. So maybe he's saying, look, maybe there is unconscious bias and you should go for it. I don't know. It's a very interesting situation, but I wonder how the FA are going to deal with it.
Yeah, I don't know how they're going to deal with it, but we saw it earlier on in the season, didn't we, with Arsenal putting out that statement after the Newcastle game. And I just feel like it's just so like schoolboy to be putting out statements like that. Like, deal with it in-house, go in your private avenues and contact the PGMOL like that. Like, don't put out public statements like that. There's no need for it. I think it's so childish, to be honest. And Mark Clattenburg, if he's the one behind it all, he should be stepping down from his role.
But is this the first time we've openly seen a Premier League team accuse the referees of corruption, blatant corruption? It must be the first. It's unprecedented. I think it's quite unbelievable how Forest have gone that far to say that VAR is a Luton fan, and and we're accusing him of not giving penalties because he wants to save his side from relegation.
You know, but yeah, I think it is the first time we've seen it. But apparently this ref, the Luton fan, has been taken off all Luton games anyway throughout the season.
Well, Luton, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, but if that's the case, if he's taken off all Luton games throughout the season, then how can he, ref a game or be involved in reffing a game that has heavy implications on Luton?
I completely agree with that, and I also think that they were stupid to put him on this game. I don't know why the FA made that decision. I think it was because it leaves himself open to this kind of accusation now. Not because I genuinely think he is corrupt, but the way it looks is absolutely horrific, I have to say, and especially that first penalty should have been given from VAR for sure, because the referee missed that Young didn't get the ball. So they've got some questions to answer now, that's for sure.
Yeah. Let's move on to the top four race. Aston Villa 3, Bournemouth 1. Sim went for 2-2. I went for 2-1 to Aston Villa, so I gain a point for this one. And I thought really professional performance from Aston Villa. All things considered, 120 minutes in Europe on Thursday night to come back and put in this kind of display against a good Bournemouth side, I thought was really impressive. Yeah, Bournemouth did have their own chances as well. I think they went 1-0 up in the day, but for Villa to come back, win 3-1, I thought really professional and quite comprehensive as well.
Bit similar to the Arsenal game in terms of I felt that a goal just before the break really gave them momentum, because actually, obviously, I predicted Bournemouth to get a result here, and I was watching that first half, and I thought my prediction was looking pretty good, because I thought Bournemouth were the better side in that first half. They did get the goal. They had a few really good presentable chances to make it 2-0 as well, and they were getting in behind that Villa backline, and they were looking really good in that opening exchange. And Villa were finding it really, really difficult to create chances, and if Bournemouth go in at half-time 1-0, I think it's a different game. But that Rodgers goal right before the break, it seemed to give the whole Villa team a lift. It gave them that little bit of energy. And I was thinking before the game, in that second half, Villa are going to tie. They had 120 minutes and all these different things. But I have to say, credit to them, because in that second half, they completely came flying out the traps and actually were much the better side in that second half. And they really took the game to Bournemouth. They completely suffocated Bournemouth. And Bournemouth couldn't create anything up until the game was 3-1. And then they had a bit late flurry of chances right at the end at 3-1. But in between those moments, it was all Villa. They completely dominated Bournemouth. As I say, they were very, very intense. And I have to say, that whole game goes down to Ollie Watkins. I thought he was absolutely sensational. I think two assists on the day. And I thought he was an absolute handful for Bournemouth, because Bournemouth actually had quite a bit of possession and were going forward a lot. And every time Villa broke, they just lumped it straight to Watkins. And it was one of the best hold-up performances I've seen in the Premier League this season, because every time he got it, he made it stick. He brought other players into play. They couldn't get the ball off him. And obviously, he got those 2 assists as well. I think it was one of the best performances from him, even without scoring. I thought he was sensational. And I think they have probably him to thank for the 3 points here.
Absolutely. 2 assists on the day for Ollie Watkins. I said it last week and I'm going to say it again. Ollie Watkins has to win Player of the Year in the Premier League this year. He has been sensational from the first week all the way up till now. So consistent. Assists, hold-up play, goals. I mean, he's been incredible this season, and the only problem he's got this summer in terms of the Euros is Harry Kane, so it doesn't look like he's going to be starting, because you've got one of the, if not the best striker in the world, he's competing with. But in terms of the Premier League this year, I don't think anyone comes close to Ollie Watkins in terms of Player of the Year, apart from maybe Cole Palmer, and I think he should be getting Young Player of the Year and Ollie Watkins Player of the Year. I mean, has there been a player that has had more of an impact in a season than Ollie Watkins this season?
On their team, probably not. probably not. I think he's been unreal, and I think he's been fit for pretty much every game as well. He's barely missed a bit of game. He's been sensational, and he definitely deserves a shout for sure. I think there's a good case for him. And games like yesterday that only proves the point. But in terms of Villa in the top 4 race, that was a real big win for them, very big. Because I expected them to drop points in this one. I thought Bournemouth were going to be a very bit of a banana skin. They came through it with flying colours, you have to say. And considering off the back of a win against Arsenal last week now, and obviously going through in the Conference League, that's now 6 points clear. Although Tottenham do have 2 games in hand, but absolutely no guarantees they get wins in those games, considering how difficult they are. So Villa have put themselves in a very, very strong position now, and even they've put themselves in a position they beat Chelsea next week, which isn't an easy game, considering Chelsea, are starting to perform quite well. But if they do beat them at Villa Park, which they're going to be favourites for, they'll be 9 points clear. And even though Spurs will have 3 games in hand, 9 points is going to be a lot to overcome, even with 3 games in hand.
Yeah, the 3 games in hand will be Arsenal, Chelsea and Manchester City. It's not like the easiest games in the world, especially with Spurs' record against Chelsea improving, Man City and Arsenal both going for the title as well. I find it very, very difficult to see how Spurs get top 4 this year. I think Aston Villa have played a blinder. They really have, and they've really stamped their authority in this top 4 race, and I can't see it going any other way now.
Well, I expect them definitely. I didn't see definitely not last week's win coming, and then I expected a bit of a slip up this weekend. That didn't happen. They overcame it. So you've got to say they're going to be full of belief now.
Yeah, and you're looking at the narrative surrounding Unai Emery. We've talked it so many times, saying he usually favours the European competitions in detriment to the league. That just hasn't happened.
Yeah, he's done well. It looked like it was happening, and then he's absolutely turned it around. And I think that Arsenal performance was a big turnaround, and maybe that was like a turning point for them getting that win there.
Let's go to Selhurst Park. A battering 5-2 against West Ham. Sim went for 1-0, as did I, so we both get a point on the board. This game was over after half an hour. 4-0 after half an hour. And West Ham, I was actually looking back at their fixtures, and they always drop points every single time they have Europe. So it wasn't a surprise that they dropped points in this game, but Palace were just unbelievable, especially in those opening half an hour. Eze at the heart of things, Olise at the heart of things. Some of the one-touch, quick passing and moving was just unbelievable, and that goal from Eze was to die for. The whole move, not just the finish, the whole move, and then obviously finished off with an unbelievable bicycle kick. But I thought for those first half an hour, 40 minutes, Crystal Palace looked unbelievable, and you've got to give credit for Glasner, because he's had a rocky start to his life at Palace, but seems to be turning around now, especially on the back of that win at Anfield last week.
Yeah, it seems that win at Anfield's really given this team a lot of confidence to play their football, and to play the football that Glasner has been coaching them, because they were sensational. They seem so fluid, so quick, so creative as well. Olise and Eze absolutely buzzing around. It was literally those 2 players were the hub of their creativity. That West Ham just couldn't live with them. Whenever they got on the ball, they would take people on. They could play through balls, they can play crosses over the top, they can get shots on goal. Those 2 together were incredible. But I want to give a shout out as well to Mateta, because he's really in great form. I think since February, he scored more goals than Erling Haaland, which is, I think he's got 7 goals since beginning of February. So he's really starting to get regular goals. He's performing really well for Ole Glasner, and he was an absolute handful for West Ham as well. They couldn't live with him. He was getting in behind, he was getting on the end of crosses, he was bullying the centre-backs as well. But West Ham just looked short of energy, short of ideas, and it seemed as though they couldn't really be bothered for this game, to be honest. It seems like they sat back but couldn't even be bothered to defend, if you know what I mean. They were like, they couldn't be bothered to go forward, and they just sat back in their low block, just hoping like Palace would basically not be too harsh on them. But Crystal Palace came in this game with flying confidence, literally with no fear, and they absolutely battered them. But this game will not do well for the Moyes out brigade, in terms of a lot of people saying Moyes might be leaving at the end of the season, and results like this puts it gives people more fuel to the fire as to why they're sick of this football from David Moyes.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, it was after Europe, and they just can't handle the European scheduling with Europe and Premier League. They have, like I said, dropped points every single time. But they have taken some batterings this season, haven't they? 5-0 to Fulham, 6-0 at home to Arsenal, 5-2 against Crystal Palace, 3-0 against poor Man United side as well. So, look, they were talking about a new contract for Moyes only a couple of months ago. Surely that's not on the table anymore.
Well, the latest rumours are he is going to be leaving. I think that would be the best course of action for West Ham, in my opinion. I think they need to move on from him. I understand he's done a decent job, but I think he's not getting any better than he's already done. I think he's run its course, and it's time to move on for him. But saying that, they're still only 2 points off sixth, albeit Newcastle and Man United do both have 2 games in hand, and Chelsea are 1 point behind with 3 games in hand. So they could find themselves in ninth very quickly. But if they do find themselves in sixth, I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find anyone who would to say they should be finishing higher than that.
But I see their season completely petering out now. I don't see, I'm looking at Chelsea. I'm looking at even Brighton, for example. I think both of these teams can finish above West Ham. Manchester United are just a weird case because I don't know how they're sitting above all those clubs, because in my opinion, they've probably been the worst out of all those 4 clubs in the league this season. I think they're just the luckiest team. But because of that, the luck, they'll probably finish above West Ham. But I see West Ham finishing probably 7th or 8th. Let's go to Craven Cottage. Another game in the title race, finished 3-1 to Liverpool against Fulham. Sim went for 2-2. I went for 2-1 to Fulham, so I get a point on the board for this one. Trent Alexander-Arnold back in the team and back in the goals as well. An unbelievable free kick from him. And then Castagna did level it up just before half-time. And you're thinking, is this another Liverpool wobble? But I thought Liverpool came out second half and really controlled things, dominated things, and got the deserved victory.
Yeah, and it was a really important victory because their season was in massive danger of petering out after the collapse against Atalanta, and then obviously the 2 drop points against United and Palace. With Arsenal winning on Saturday, they really needed to make sure they kept pace with them and put a bit more pressure on them and not allow it to become a 2-horse race. And they did that. I thought it was a really professional performance, especially in that second half. Albeit, actually, even in the first half, I thought they played quite well. I thought Fulham, it was a weird one. I thought Liverpool played really well. And then for the last 5 minutes of the half, they started to lose their way a bit and allowed Fulham back into the game. And obviously, they did get their goal. And you're thinking, is it another wobble from Liverpool because they missed chances? They only got the 1 goal, allowed Fulham back in. But really professional display in that second half. Really controlled the game. Were very, very calm. I felt like in the second half against Atalanta, they completely lost all composure and they completely lost their way in that game. And they were just getting the ball and lumping it forward. It's almost as if they had so much urgency in that game. They just wanted to pump it forward whenever they got the ball and just ended up giving it back to Atalanta every time. I thought this time was a lot more measured, a lot more calm. I think maybe Klopp urged him, look, even though we're drawing, there's no need to act like it's the 90th minute for the whole half. Let's just try and get their goal and calm it down. And they did that. It was, I thought, the second goal from Gravenberch, really well-crafted move and a really calm finish from him on the edge of the box. And then Jota goes through late on and seals it with a really good finish and makes it 3-1. And they even didn't start Salah and still came away with the victory. So that will be really important because they need to manage him at the moment. So hopefully for them, that'll be a real shot on the arm they need to, really give it a good fight for the last 5 games.
I thought that was really impressive as well, like how they can just drop Salah for a really hard game away at Craven Cottage where a lot of big teams have struggled this year. Like, I'm looking at that compared to maybe Arsenal, and I was thinking, can Arsenal go to Fulham away and just drop Bukayo Saka or something like that and get the result? I'm just not sure.
Or they'd be playing Reece Nelson. That's the difference. Liverpool bring in Diaz started on the right, didn't he? And Arsenal just don't trust their backup wingers. So I agree with you. I think that is a big difference, and we'll see how it changes, because I thought again Saka. Well, actually, I thought he struggled a bit in the first half in that game, and he hasn't looked the same recently, Saka. Whereas Salah hasn't looked the same, but they're able to take him out.
Yeah, exactly. So how we end off the title race going into the midweek fixtures is Arsenal and Liverpool deadlocked on 74 points, and Man City on 73 points with a game in hand. So it's all to play for, isn't it?
And Arsenal play first, don't they?
Yeah, play Tuesday night.
So Arsenal and Liverpool both play before City. So what's interesting is when City play Brighton on Thursday, they're going to have 2 games in hand on Arsenal and Liverpool. So if either of them fail to win, the pressures, they're really going to... there's going to be a big opportunity for City to win and pull clear of them if they can win their 2 games in hand. So there's a lot of pressure. And as you say, Liverpool going to Merseyside, Arsenal playing Chelsea, so 2 rivals.
All 3 teams have really tough fixtures this week. Brighton have been really good at home all season. Liverpool, their record at Goodison Park's not great. I know they won there a couple of years ago, but there's a lot of 0-0 draws in there at Goodison Park, especially with what they're fighting for this season. And Arsenal at home to Chelsea is not an easy game as well, with the way Chelsea are playing at the moment. I thought Chelsea in the FA Cup semi-final probably should have won this week against Man City. So it shows that they can turn up in these big games.
Yeah, 100%. So still very exciting.
And let's move on to the Star men. Sim went for Fofana. Did he even get on the pitch?
I don't think so.
I was so surprised when I saw him not starting, in a big game for Burnley.
Yeah.
And they actually got the goals without him as well.
I know, pissed me off.
And I went for Eberechi Eze, who is the heart and soul of that Crystal Palace performance, a goal and an assist for him on the day. I was actually quite disappointed he didn't do more than that, but it leaves us in a very tight spot. 380 to Sim, 379 to me going into the midweek fixtures. We do have a bonus Predict the Prem that is going to come out later today. So thank you everyone for watching today. Let us know your thoughts on the weekend fixtures. Like, subscribe and comment. We'll see you next time.